Hello and welcome to the Bears Huddle podcast here on YouTube. Guys, please obviously smash that sub and help the channel to get going and growing, guys. We are a UK-based Chicago Bears fan-driven channel, looking to build a fan-driven community over here, guys. Looking to get as many as you from the United States of America involved. It's not just for the UK, guys. I know there's a large proportion of Bears fans in the UK, but look, I want to interact as much as I can with our brother Bears over in the States as well. So please obviously smash that sub and come and join the channel, guys. Look, we bring you daily content, we bring you podcasts. Eventually we're going to start our lives going very soon, and also we bring you game streams once the season is in full swing. Look, we're going to talk a little bit of Dennis Allen and his defense today. Dennis Allen obviously had a very successful spell in New Orleans. I think there's a lot of excitement around the type of defense that Allen will bring to the Bears this coming season under obviously Ben Johnson, the new head coach. And look, I mean, just a word aside for a moment on Ben Johnson, I think, this is a very, very ambitious man. This is a man who wants to win now. This is a man who wants to be successful now. And those of you who listened, like I did, to the interviews given, at the start of the off-season workouts from the likes of Caleb Williams, Jalen Johnson, Darnell Wright, Tremaine Edmonds, you can't fail but to be impressed by what is being said. And I know it's just words, guys. It is just words, and words are one thing. And it's actions that speak louder than words, as we are constantly told throughout our lives, aren't we? And, yes, they all talked about the same thing, though. They talked about dominate. They talked about win now. They talked about positivity. They talked about all the good buzzwords you want to hear from a team pre-season. But look, like I said to you, it does not matter a jot come week one when it is time to get down and dirty in the trenches. Now, Dennis Allen's defense, what sort of defense will he bring to the Chicago Bears? And this was a quote that came out the other day, and I think it's very apt. It tells you a lot about what the Bears defense will bring. And I think, look, it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how the present members of this team fit in to this defense. Obviously we've got a lot of talent there on the defensive side of the ball, and a lot of talent was acquired, obviously, with the idea of Matt Eberflus and his staff. Now it's obviously down to Ben Johnson and his staff, and in particular, of course, Dennis Allen. So it was speed. He wants a very aggressive and attacking defense, especially on the defensive line. This is talking about Dennis Allen's defense, of course. It's attacking the man in front of you, not so much playing laterally, two gapping, or even penetrating in gaps. It's really just attacking the offensive lineman in front of you and creating disruption in the run game. Getting that run game under control, putting it down, and making the opposition throw the football. And with an excellent secondary like we have with the likes of Jalen Johnson, Jaquan Brisker, Kevin Byard, etc., it will obviously be good for us on that aspect. Then also it's being able to bubble back into the quarterback's feet to make it uncomfortable there, too, that the mentality is definitely going to be there, that something will get done. This is the fast, aggressive, in-your-face defensive style that Dennis Allen will bring to the team. He is, like I said, he has an excellent record as a DC. We know that. He had his spell from 6 years, 2015 to 2021, as the New Orleans Saints defensive coordinator. Yes, he had a couple of years, obviously, as the head coach, less successful. But as the DC, he was very much a huge success. Obviously, a massive success as well, post his departure from the Oakland Raiders, when he became senior defensive assistant before progressing to be the DC there. There's a lot of talk at this moment in time, about the type of player that we'll be looking at in this draft, and bringing in players that will match Dennis Allen's philosophy, this fast, hard, in-your-face, aggressive style that they want him to bring. And I think that's a reason why Ben Johnson has brought him in. Ben Johnson obviously is a massive offensive mind. He is a guy who can put out there an offense that can score multiple points, that can do a hell of a job on the opposition, as we saw during his time in Detroit. Yes, he had some serious weapons there, but let's face it, Jared Goff, I wouldn't say that, long term he's any better than Caleb Williams potentially can be. And you've got, had Amon-Ra St. Brown obviously as well, but we've got some decent wide receivers here in Chicago as well. But look, at the end of the day, this is about, looking at this defense and looking at what we can bring to it. And I think in the draft we will see, I think, a push to really add to this defense, both edge and defensive line. Now, there was some strong stories coming out of the Windy City as regards the Bears, possibly even after the 10th pick, trying to trade back up into the first round to look for a defensive lineman. We know that this draft is very deep at the defensive line. A number of very talented players in that defensive line area. Obviously Mason Graham is one of those top players. He's obviously, likely to go very high in this draft, and I think will be unlikely to fall to the Bears at 10 or even, later on. If taking out obviously those the blue chip guys like the edge rushers like Abdul Carter, we spoke about those the other day. You've got Walter Nolan there, excellent defensive lineman out of Ole Miss. Again, he is a fast, hard, aggressive, in-your-face type player, someone who would definitely meet Dennis Allen's system. Kenneth Grant out of Michigan, who was teammate of Mason Graham. Again, another one who's a fast, hard, in-your-face, aggressive type player. Derek Harmon, another one, fast, aggressive, hard, in-your-face type player. So there's certainly some players in that draft, beyond, I think, the 10th pick. You wouldn't certainly be looking to take Nolan or Harmon or even, Kenneth Grant at 10. They are certainly more, I would say, late first round picks. Hence why, there could well be that drive by the Bears to get back up into the first round to kind of try and bring in someone like this to really supplement, Dennis Allen's defense. This is the aim. It's got to be. And I think, what we're seeing here and we're kind of reading about, that he's going to bring to the team is it's aggressive, it's exciting, and it's what we've been crying out for. This to bring the defense to dominate. People talk about defense winning championships. It does, and that's the key thing. The whole message that came across, from Jalen Johnson, from Darnell Wright, from Caleb Williams, from Tremaine Edmonds as well, was, that whole philosophy of let's not just win, let's whoop them, let's smash them, let's dominate. I think it was Tremaine Edmonds when he was interviewed said, when you have a fight, it's not about just winning the fight, just edging it. It's about whooping the other guy's ass. And that's what they want to do on the field. Not fight, obviously, but outscore the opposition big time. And the defense holding the opposition to as few points as possible is a big, big thing. And that's one of the things I think that Dennis Allen's defense will do. Really come in and be fast, be aggressive. And, like I said, there is talent on that side of the ball. You've only got to look, at that side of the ball and look at it, and see that it is a defense capable of playing very well. If you add other parts to that as well, it is really the case of, of developing it and bringing it on and making it even better. Now, obviously, we know that GM Ryan Poles controls and calls the shots when it comes to roster building. That's his job. That's his right. And yes, some of us, some people speak positively about what Ryan Poles has done. Others speak negatively about what Ryan Poles has done. For instance, missing out on Jalen Carter, for example. He, however, has shown one, thing that I think is very positive since he's become the GM, which is he does listen to the coaching staff. He does take on board what they need, what they want in this team. He proved that with Matt Eberflus, where the acquisitions of Kyler Gordon, Jaquan Brisker, Gervon Dexter, Tyreek Stevenson. They were all players who were exact fits for their former head coach's scheme. Now it's down to Dennis Allen, and obviously, I think he will, whilst he will primarily listen to Ben Johnson and what Ben Johnson as head coach wants to bring in, he is going to listen to the defensive coordinator, and especially someone as senior and as experienced as Dennis Allen, a guy who comes with a vast wealth of NFL experience. I think this was a quote, from Ryan Poles. This is what Ryan Poles said in response of the, what does Dennis Allen want? If you go back to Dennis Allen's time as DC in New Orleans, you look at the types of players that he had there. He had cornerback Marshawn Lattimore, for example, the fifth fastest player of any at the 2017 Combine. Marcus Davenport, the fourth fastest time amongst defensive linemen. Clear that Allen does love that speed. Knowing this, I think obviously makes targeting, people at the draft much more easier, a much easier job for Ryan Poles. Given obviously looking at some of the 40 times. I mean, if you look at some of those 40 times, I mean, the edge rushers that stand out, if he's bringing speed and aggression, James Pearce that we mentioned on the video yesterday, 4.47, Shamar Stewart, 4.459, who is slated to visit with the Bears this week. Landon Jackson, another one at 4.68, quick, speedy, fast edge rushers. Defensive tackles, people have mentioned, Derek Harmon, who I've mentioned already, 4.95. Darius Alexander at 4.95. CJ West at 4.95. These guys, especially Alexander and West, will be available in later rounds. These are not first round guys. Linebackers that are quick and speedy. I mean, obviously, Jalen Walker is the big standout, but I don't think Walker fits the Allen system. Others that have kind of, Carson Schwessinger is another one. Again, doesn't really fit the Allen system. Jeffrey Basser out of Oregon for a late sort of 6th, 7th round pick. Again, maybe doesn't fit that system either. But Eugene Asante, 4.42. Danny Strutzman, I know someone who, has very much a lot of upside to him, 4.52. Smail Mondon, what a first name, 4.58. Cornerbacks that are lightning quick. Now, again, this is not a deep cornerback class, so I think we're fortunate in the cornerbacks we do have on the roster at this moment in time, but the Bears may be looking to add an extra one. You've got obviously Maxwell Hairston, 4.28, Jacob Parrish, 4.35, and Trey Amos, 4.43. I know Trey Amos is someone who is very, very highly thought of. We will release a video before the draft on some of those cornerbacks and talk a little bit about them. Safeties. Now, I know that safeties are a position of need for the Bears going into this draft, according to a number of sources. Nick Emanwari obviously is the top guy, but he is certainly a guy who's going to go first round. Perhaps 10 maybe a bit too rich for someone like Emanwari, but at 4.38, 40 he ran. Billy Bowman Jr. at 4.42, but an exciting prospect will be someone I think you can get sort of 3rd round, possibly, is Andrew Makuba out of Texas at 4.58. There are lots and lots and lots of options there for the Bears to go out if they're going to go for speed and aggression. Certainly those guys will bring it. Thinking back to the combine, James Pearce certainly is a big standout there. Guys, I'd love to know your thoughts on Dennis Allen, your thoughts on what you hope the Bears defense will bring this year. Now, obviously, there's already been additions to that defense already, but it's now down to obviously going into that draft, bringing those extra talent in, that young rookie talent that can bring even more enthusiasm, even more speed, even more aggression, and really help this Dennis Allen defense come alive. Guys, get me your thoughts in those comments. Please smash that sub. Thank you for watching the Bears Huddle podcast. On your way out, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And guys, let's always remember to bear down.